Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of Longhorn Diaries. Today I am joined by Mr. Joshua Allen from Main Street Law. Josh, say hello.
Hello.
To hire you when they're purchasing or buying a home. I said the same thing twice there. Hi, this is Travis Hawryluk with RE/MAX Preferred Choice. And this is Longhorn Diaries. I'm going to be bringing you everything you need to know about the real estate world and more, all from the cab of my truck. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know who you are, where you came from, and what exactly is it that you do as a lawyer here in Spruce Grove?
So my full name, Joshua Allen. I originally grew up on the East Coast, but moved out here to take engineering at the University of Alberta, which I did for several years before deciding that I think law would be more fun. So I went to the U of A for law school, and as soon as I graduated, I came out to Main Street Law in Spruce Grove, and I've been here ever since. And I do primarily real estate and some wills and estates work.
Awesome. So today we're going to kind of zone in on, of course, real estate, because you and I work together a decent amount for sure when you're helping my clients either sell or buy a property. So let's get things kicked off here when you're representing a buyer client looking to purchase a home. What exactly is it that you do?
So when a person's buying a home, they tend to think that it's just themselves and the seller, but most people get mortgages, and the bank then becomes kind of a third party to this transaction that has a lot of say, because if they don't like what they're seeing, they won't advance the mortgage funds and you won't get a chance to close. It's not that the bank just gives you all the money and then you go buy what you like. They send the lawyer a list of instructions and requirements, and we act for them too.
I see. Okay. So what does the kind of home buying process look like when you are representing a buyer? At what point in the transaction do they come see you? Exactly what does your meeting entail with them? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Certainly. The most common first introduction for us to the client is a phone call. They'll say they're referred by their realtor or a banker, or they maybe worked with us or just saw our building when they drive by. They'll call and ask, are you available? Can you help us out? And maybe they ask for a quote. But then we can't really do much after that until we receive the mortgage instructions from their bank or other lender and the conveyancing instructions from the realtor, which has the contract, any deposits, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we have all the info. We have to draft all of the documents, and only once we have the documents ready to go, then we call the client in to meet, because then we know what they have to bring, we know what we got to do. They'll come in, they sign everything, and if everything's going as it should, that's all I'm going to need from them until the closing day, when I just call and let them know we received the money and they should hopefully get keys soon.
Awesome. So what you're telling me is that there's a lot of work that you and your team do at Main Street Law even before the client comes to see you.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair to say most of the work we do is before they see us.
Yeah.
And there is work after, but not as much.
A lot of times I'll follow up with my clients after they've come in to visit with you, and they'll say, Travis, that was super simple. That took 10 minutes. That was 20 minutes. We were in and we were out. And they say, well, what was that all about? And I said, well, you know what? That's probably a sign of a good professional and a good support staff in order to make it a 10, 20-minute process to ensure that you're fully informed of what you're signing, but everything is prepared and everything is done correctly when you actually meet you face to face.
Yeah, we do a lot to make sure that that meeting goes smoothly. Nothing is worse than having someone who comes in and confused or doesn't know what they need to know. We want smooth closings as well, just as much as everybody else.
For sure. So is there any top tips that you can share for specific buyers that are looking to purchase a home? What are things that they need to look out for and that may or may not apply to real estate law?
Well, I think a purchase is a very large transaction, and the contract that governs that purchase It's going to be one of the most important contracts you ever deal with, and the consequences are very important. So if I'm only giving one tip, it's hire a great realtor, because they'll make sure everything goes smoothly, they'll make sure nothing gets missed, and even though sometimes things happen, your chances of having a problem are significantly reduced. If I get to give you 2 tips, the second is to make sure that everything is good with the bank. Make sure that the bank is going to fund on time. Make sure you go in and you meet with them, because I have some clients who say everything's ready to go, the bank told me it's fine, and then still a week before closing, the bank says, oh, we need you to come in and do a few more things. And that's always a bit of a disaster, because it means sometimes we close late because the bank can't get us the money on time.
Yeah, that is super important. And on this show on Longhorn Diaries, we're always open to tips. So thank you for sharing more than one. You've mentioned to me in the past that, a simple job description for a real estate lawyer is to basically execute on things that you've already agreed to. It's not to get you out of things that you have previously agreed to. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you negotiate your deal with your realtor, and then once everything is finalized, that's when the lawyer steps in. So I'm not negotiating what you're going to get or what you're going to do. I'm only making sure it happens. And if you've promised to provide something or to do something, I can't change that. You've got a contractual promise to do so. I can try to negotiate the mitigation, but that's always a bad place to be.
All right, thanks for that, Josh. Now let's switch over to representing a seller. So what is it exactly that you do when you're representing a seller when they're selling their home?
Yeah, the main task that a selling lawyer has to deal with is the fact that a buyer doesn't want to hand over all their money until they're sure that the mortgage or any other liens are taken off property.
Right.
So they're not going to give the seller the money because they could take the money and run away. So what the lawyer does is they act as a little bit of an intermediary, because the promises a lawyer gives are backed by the law society, which means nobody's going to lose money even if a lawyer does something they're not supposed to. So for example, when I act for a seller, I have to promise the buyer's lawyer that I'm going to get that mortgage discharged, that I'm going to make sure I pay it out, and that the property is going to be vacant when the time comes, if that's the transaction. And without a lawyer, you are in a deadlock. No one's going to hand over any money on a sale like that.
Right. Okay, and if you could share a few tips when you are representing a seller, what are things that you can recommend to them, maybe even before they start the selling process? If you could have that chance to speak with a seller before that for sale sign is up in their front yard, what would you suggest to them?
The most common issue that we have when helping a seller is that their real property report, which is just a survey of the property, is out of date. And most contracts require that a seller provide the updated survey, and that they have the city approve the survey to make sure everything's correct. For example, you want to make sure your deck isn't too big or your garage is actually on your property.
Right.
And people might live there for 20 years, but then when they go to sell, they need to prove everything's okay. And if you don't have that looked after, they can be kind of expensive to fix at the last minute, so make sure that's in order.
Right. Okay, awesome.
And of course, a good realtor will make sure that that's the case before you accept an offer.
That is very true. That is very true. All right, Josh, thank you very much for that. Now, I'm a fun fact kind of guy. Longhorn Diaries is all about the fun facts. What would you like to share with our audience today of anything that's of interest or anything that's a fun fact?
Well, in sticking with the real estate theme, maybe I will tell you a little bit of the origin of how you actually hold title to your property. So in Canada, English-speaking Canada anyway, you can hold your property with more than one person, as a tenant in common, or as a joint tenant. And the word tenant is in there because, of course, all of the peasants used to be just tenants on the land for the king. And although that's changed and now everybody actually owns it, the language has persisted over thousands of years, basically. And the one big difference that some couples might want to know is that if you own it as a joint tenant and one of you passes away, it goes directly to the other person, bypasses their estate. But if you own it as tenants in common, then you each have your own 50%. That'll go where you like. So make sure you know what you're doing and you pick one instead.
So that's something that a lot of people do not or are not aware of. A lot of people do not know that the title is probably the most important thing when they're looking to sell or buy a property. So to dive one layer deeper, that's awesome for your share, so thank you. That's fantastic, Josh, thank you. Now, one question that I frequently get from my clients is, hey Travis, what is title insurance, and do I get title insurance or do I insure to get a real property report done with municipal compliance? Can you shed some light on that, please?
Sure. So this is an issue that comes up for both buyers and sellers.
Okay.
When you're selling a property, the default realtor contract says that you'll provide a real property report and compliance. We talked about what that is already. But many people either don't have a real property report available, or the expense in getting one is more than they'd like to pay. So instead, they will offer to provide title insurance to the buyer. And title insurance is a form of insurance that you pay for only once when the property is transferred. And it covers the buyer for the lifetime that they own the property. But it doesn't cover quality of the work, it doesn't cover workmanship, it doesn't cover disasters. It only covers title issues, like someone tries to steal your title, or there's a government work order against it you don't know about. Those builders' liens, those kinds of things. But they also cover defects in the survey. So if you had a survey and you saw your garage was actually on the other person's property, you wouldn't buy it. If you're not going to get that, you have title insurance, and you discover this later, the title insurer will step in and negotiate an encroachment agreement, or in the worst case, pay to have it moved or removed. And so from a seller's perspective, if you have a real property report and compliance, fine. But if you don't, you'd much rather offer title insurance because it's cheaper. For a buyer, although most people don't have any trouble with title insurance and everything's usually fine, my suggestion for buyers is it's usually better to know that you don't have any problems rather than insure over possible problems.
Okay.
But it's really an item, I think, that is a bit of a leverage or bargaining chip that may come into play when you're negotiating the contract with the realtor, and whether you're going to increase your price or decrease it, or whatever the case may be.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Josh. That definitely sheds some light on title insurance versus real property reports and surveys. And again, going back to preparing to either sell your property or to buy one, have that discussion up front with your realtor to see what is going to be the best case scenario, because I do believe that, you know, it's property specific as well too. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree completely.
Awesome. So Josh, let's say someone has some questions about real estate law, or they're looking to sell or hire you to buy a home. How do they reach you?
The easiest way is just to call me by my direct number, 780-960-8182. However, you can call our main office and they'll redirect you if you find us there. We also have everybody's information on the website, mainstreetlaw.ca.
And be sure to definitely keep an eye on our home selling and home buying 101 dates happening in 2020, as Josh, myself, and Holly Cochran and Jordan St. Pierre will all be there. So if you would like to come join us and learn everything that you can about the home buying and home selling process, we'll be there to help. Josh, thank you very much for joining me on this edition of Longhorn Diaries. I know that, you know, having a lawyer take time out of their day, such as this, is absolutely amazing. I'm going to get a big bill for this, but we really do appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge and helping people with the home selling and home buying process.
It was my pleasure, anytime.
That's it for this edition of Longhorn Diaries. Be sure to tune in next time. Ciao. You're going to say bye too?
Bye.
Bye. So, believe it or not, we have dress rehearsals on Longhorn Diaries. And I think Josh was the first guest to ever have a dress rehearsal. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this is an amateur filmed show. And long story short, we had some audio issues with our previous recording. So that really kind of makes me think about a point that we're going to reference to today, is that the only thing more expensive than hiring a professional is hiring an amateur.
Yes.
And So this is round number 2 with